All right, so today I have the pleasure of being joined by two good friends of mine, Aidan and James Daly. They played college football together at Saint Anselm College. Aidan was on the defensive line, James on the offensive line. They both are graduates now with a master's in sports administration at BC, and both currently work in the sports field. Aidan works with me at BC, James works at Fenway Park. An absolute pleasure having you guys on the podcast today. Two big Boston sports fans. Always a pleasure talking sports with you guys. So thank you for your time in joining me today. How are you guys both doing?
Doing good, Joey. Happy to be on. Uh, First time, long time. Definitely a fan. So very excited to be on with you.
Yeah, man, very excited to join. Always down to talk some sports and excited to contribute to your podcast. I know you've done great things, so excited to be a part of that and talk some sports because there's a lot going on in the world right now, especially sporting world. There's so much stuff going on, so much to talk about.
100%. And that's why it's a perfect time having you guys on, right? We got obviously the NBA Finals going on. The Red Sox are midway through their season. We got the NBA draft coming up. You got the NHL Stanley Cup Finals going on. So big time in sports right now. And thank you guys for your time. I know you guys are both busy, working in sports. It's never really much free time you get. So thank you guys for joining me. We'll start out with my first question, and that's what was your experience like playing football against each other, or with each other, I should say, but against each other in practice at St. Anselm College?
Yeah, so I would say it was overall a great experience, especially playing at St. Anselm College. Had a great time there. Great school in New Hampshire. Great community there. Definitely promotes athletics as well as scholarship too. So definitely loved my student athlete experience there. It was a lot of fun. And then as for playing with my brother, it definitely had its ups and downs. I think in the off season, it's always nice when you have someone that you can train with, someone that you can go against in one-on-ones. So like I was a nose tackle, he was a guard, center, tackle, kind of played all over. So that was nice having someone that would always be there for your reps and would go against you. So that was always fun. But I think it was a little nerve-wracking too. You didn't want to hurt your brother. You didn't want to do something wrong, or maybe losing to your brother might hurt a little bit sometimes. But no, it was definitely a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% echo that. Like, it was a great experience overall. Like, St. Anselm was a great place. Like, football was very much like on the forefront of our minds, like especially when we were looking at colleges, and St. Anselm gave us a great opportunity to play. And I feel like they did a great job of like promoting everybody to have that opportunity to play. So I feel like that like you that's all you can really ask for as a student athlete is a shot to play. And what you make of it is what you make of it. But as far as like playing against my brother, like I loved it. Honestly, it was a great time, but it also was like a double-edged sword at points because like if you beat him, like you make him look bad on film, and then it's like you're really rooting for him. Like you're like, oh, dude, I want my brother to beat everybody in one-on-ones today or look really good in the team drill. But like if you beat him, then it's kind of like you're only promoting yourself. So it's not like you want to like give him a win or anything like that because obviously you're a competitor. You don't want to do that, but like you're almost like stuck like wanting him to do better against you, but like make it a good match. It's just such a like it's so in the middle. Like it was a great time. I loved it. I loved playing against my brother. I thought he echoed it perfectly. Like the off season was amazing. Like going one on ones all the time, like every day. Like we had you have someone to like with a common goal as you to win every day, and that was just a huge part. Like I can't my success. I can't even begin to explain like how important like he was for that. And I'm sure he would say the same thing. Like he got better when he would beat me, and then he'd go into games and have that confidence and stuff like that. So it's just like having someone to go against. It's like fighting, like having someone to sparring partner. Like it's huge. Like someone with a common goal as you. Like it's just you can't even measure that.
Mhm. And you guys obviously played together growing up as well. So when you make that jump from high school to college together, obviously competition is going to get stronger and better when you go from that high school level to the college level. You guys were able to make that jump together, which is really special. And then obviously every step of the way, in season, out of season, like you guys mentioned, the off-season workouts, all of that, spending that time with your brother, which I know football is very much a family sport, but you guys obviously are family, right? So at the end of the day, having a brother, someone that you can rely on, depend upon anytime you need him, and he's obviously doing the same for you is very much special. So I'm happy you guys had that experience. Obviously, you got a great education at St. Anselm's and then get the experience of playing football together, which is really cool. And then who would you say, which I know I kind of know where this answer is going to go. You're probably going to point the finger at each other, but who would you say won more of the matchups in practice against one another?
Yeah, I mean, I'll honestly jump in and I'll give it to James. I do think I have no shame in saying that my brother was. I think he was a better football player than me. I really have no shame in saying that. I do think he probably got the edge on me a little bit, but I have no shame in saying that. I really don't because he was a really good player. So I'll give him the edge. I really don't. Not embarrassed to say it. Hand up. I'll give it to him.
I would say the the off season specifically, like it was not even close. Like he would win almost every rep. If we didn't have pads on, like he would win because he's got the lateral quickness, he's got the good hands. So like he would just get around me and like without pads, like there's nothing for you to grab. So it was impossible to try to get your hands on this guy. So like that was definitely difficult. Um, I appreciate him saying that a lot. Obviously, like that means a lot because I think of him so highly as a football player as well. Obviously, and it's just like iron sharpens iron. Like he really helped me become a better player, and I hope I did the same for him. Because
Percent.
once you got on to Saturdays, we played on Saturdays, of course, just like the regular Division 1 guys. But it was almost like taking the training wheels off. Like it just felt so much different, and like you were prepared for that moment because of how hard you worked. But like as far as who got the better of each other, like I'm gonna say it was pretty split, like very, very split. With the pads on, I would probably take myself, but if we took the pads off, like he would absolutely run races around me.
I assumed we were talking pads on, so I mean
I
that's
I
the
get that, but I gotta give you some credit. Like if we didn't have pads on, like we were just doing like practice reps, like with no pads, like it was not even a
no, I
question.
get that.
Like
I get that
there were
too.
some days where I was questioning my abilities just because of the how bad it was. It was crazy.
It is cool though, playing with your brother, obviously, and to make that jump too. Like, think about the amount of people that play high school, from middle school to high school is a drop off. People fall off for playing the sport, and then high school to college, especially at the Division 2 level. Not everybody has that opportunity to do so. So obviously, you guys accomplished a lot in your football careers, and then now working at sports as well. You guys have continued, along the same track, kind of doing different things in sports, but both working in sports still, which is really cool. And now I'll dive in and we'll talk about the NBA Finals, which obviously we had a big game last night. Spurs taking down the Knicks in game 3 at Madison Square Garden. Spurs are now down 2-1 in the series. What are you guys' thoughts so far on the NBA Finals?
Yeah. I think what really sticks out to me, just like talking about it with family and friends and basketball fans alike, is how deep the Knicks are as a team. I know they lost last night, but like they just have so many guys that are capable of playing and starting games for them and making meaningful contributions to the game. And being led by Cat and Brunson is very that's huge. Like you can't even measure how big that is for them. Like Brunson is one of, if not the most clutch player in the league right now at this current moment. I know he hasn't shot super efficiently this series, but he gets those buckets when it matters most. And speaking on Cat has been extremely like surprising for me. Um, just because I thought he was kind of like a softer center and like not as tough, but he's been playing like really like I was watching the highlights of it and he's getting some tough rebounds against Wembenyama, like getting some nice putbacks. Like it's just impressive what he's been able to do this series. Like I think he's definitely been my MVP so far. I think for the sake of the game, it was just great that the Spurs won last night. I'm pulling for the Spurs personally. I want the Spurs to win. I'd love to see Wemby get a ring in his first year in the playoffs like that. Like that would be awesome if he could get it. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it's been an entertaining series so far. It's been really, really entertaining. Like it's not super lopsided. So I think it's been a great series so far. What do you think, Aiden?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you can't overlook the depth of the Knicks, like looking at that bench. And I'm definitely a big fan of those the guys they got like OG, Michael Bridges, those guys that just really will give it to you on both ends of the floor. I think that you can't overlook those guys. I think they're so invaluable to any franchise. But one thing that's definitely stood out to me on the other side, like the flip side, just the youth of the Spurs, looking at like for me personally, Dylan Harper has really impressed as a rookie in the NBA Finals, doing what he's been doing. It's honestly been insane. A lot of that. I know he went second overall in a pretty loaded draft, and kind of like a fun question is where would you like redraft, I guess, if you were looking at the 1 through 4 there. You got Cooper Flagg, you got Dylan Harper, you got VJ, and then you got Colin Knippel. I think Dylan Harper's definitely like living up to that number 2 pick right now, the way he's playing in these NBA finals. Stephon Castle had a great game last night to notch one for the Spurs. So I'm really excited about the youth of the Spurs moving forward. As a Celtics fan, I'd prefer to see the Spurs win, but I do think the Knicks ultimately will win just due to that depth. I think San Antonio didn't help their case by not winning either game at home, but who knows? Maybe game 4, the Spurs can go steal another one in New York. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I would imagine that Brunson and those guys will lock it down, but um, honestly, I'm just impressed with the Spurs young guys, but at the same time, it is the NBA Finals. You do have to win while you're there. It's not like a gimme that oh, they're going to be back there, because I mean we've seen teams that have made it there pretty young and then didn't make their way back there. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting.
It's a great point because you look at the last 4 NBA finals, right? You have 8 different teams making it. So it's never, oh, they'll be back because that was the case of the Nuggets, the case of the Thunder. Oh, they'll be back. They'll get another ring. And even the Celtics as well. And you see, all 3 of those teams falling shy of the NBA finals this year. So, no, it's never easy to make it back, but especially in the last 4 or 5 years, there's a lot of parity in the league. And I think both of you guys made a great point about the Knicks depth. A lot of guys that can score the ball. I think that's what stands out most to me is you have 5 or 6 players on that team that can go for 20 points. You wouldn't be shocked. On the other end with the Spurs, like they do have really good depth scoring wise, but I don't know if they have that same offensive, peak that the Knicks have, especially the way the Knicks have played now over the last month and change. They've been playing the best basketball in the NBA. I think with that question Aiden brought up, I think it's a great question to discuss. If you were to redraft that NBA draft class from a couple of years ago, or from a year ago, I should say, how would you do it with obviously Cooper Flagg, Con Kneppel, Ace Bailey, even VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Hopper? Like for me, I think it's tough because I think VJ Edgecombe's my favorite player of all of those guys. So it'd be tough to take him number 1 over Cooper Flagg. I'll admit that. I think Flagg would probably still go number 1. I'd put VJ 2. I'd go Dylan Hopper 3, Con Kneppel 4, Ace Bailey 5. I think Ace Bailey has the most potential still of all those guys. Like genuinely, I think his ceiling is to be a top 15 player in the NBA, top 10 player in the NBA. Have we seen that yet? No, but that's how I would draft it. What about you guys? I'll start with you, James, if you have an opinion on that of how you'd redraft that, because I think that's a great debate.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big Con Knippel guy. Never been a big Duke fan in my life. I've always liked UNC over Duke. Not that I'm the big UNC guy. I mean, Drake May kind of makes me a UNC fan, but besides the point, I'm just big on Con Knippel. What he did this rookie year and helping that Hornets team make the playoffs was pretty impressive to me. But I think in a redraft, I'd probably. I mean, I don't think there's really a huge debate on whether or not Cooper Flagg is going to go 1. I think that's pretty solidified. Like he was incredible, especially the second half of the season. He was incredible. So I'd go him number 1, Cooper Flagg. Number 2, I'd probably have to go like I'm very torn here, but I'd probably take VJ. I think his athleticism is like different level. Like we actually were at his debut against the Celtics, and he put up 36, 38 points.
Get
Like
38.
something unbelievable. I'd probably take him too. His athleticism is really good. And I think his shooting, although it's not like poor or anything by any means, I think he's going to improve as a shooter too. Like I think he could become a lights out shooter. And then he just, that would take his game to the next level. So I'd take him too. I mean, I'm a big Con Knippel guy. I'd probably go him at 3. 4, I'd have to go. 4, I'd have to go Dylan Harper because this playoffs he's blown me away. And then 5, I'd probably go Ace Bailey. And an honorable mention, I really like Derek Queen on the Pelicans. I think he's a special player. I think he could be a very good player in this league for a while.
Yeah, it's a good point about Derek Queen. He is good. That's why they obviously traded up to go and get him
Yeah.
as a
Yep.
franchise cornerstone. But yeah, you made a great point there about Kneppel obviously did kind of elevate that Hornets team, a team that has been losing, right, for so many years. They finally got a guy that they already had some good offensive players, at Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. They had a guy now that can transform that offense just with his shooting ability. But what about you, Aiden? How would you rank those 5 guys? It's a great question you came up with.
Yeah, I think it's funny too because I'm very similar to you. I do think Flagg is sticking at 1 for me. I think, and overall, I'll like kind of spoil this. I do think that the teams, as of right now, I think they got it right. I like what they did, so I think I'd keep Dylan Harper at 2. Probably, I'm a little biased because I do think VJ probably had a better rookie like regular season. I do think Dylan's finals is definitely making me keep him at 2 as opposed to maybe dropping him to 3. That's probably where I'd have the most issues is maybe 2 versus 3, looking at sliding VJ up and doing it what you had, Joey. I'm not as high on Con as James is. I do think Con is great, and the fact that the Hornets did what they did this year was impressive. I think this like later success in the finals for Dylan and then for VJ against like the Celtics in winning a series, I guess like holds more weight to me than more than the regular season did. But overall, I'd probably go Coop, Dylan, VJ at 3, even though I could potentially slide him to 2. Fourth, I would go. I'd stick there with Con, and then 5, Ace Bailey, and I also think Derek Queen is great as well. But do I think he was worth trading that first round pick? I don't know. We'll see, but see how bad that comes to bite them.
Yeah, he's still so young, right? Like all of these guys
Yeah.
we just mentioned are all so young, all rookies and all 20, 21 years old really. So like, we never know how guys will be in like 5 years, but I think this debate right now that we're having will be great when we look 2 or 3 years down the line. We might have much different answers, which is the beauty of the NBA, right? Guys are going to blossom and develop in different ways, and sometimes their surroundings play an important role. We saw Utah obviously be a team that was genuinely tanking, right? Like openly tanking at the end of the season, and that's why Bailey got some more opportunities later in the season, but they're obviously losing a lot of games. So no one really paid attention much to Utah at the end of the year. I did watch a decent amount of the games I feel like this season, since I do like Ace Bailey. I liked a decent amount of guys on that roster, and I do think he has the potential to be that best player of the class. Has he shown it all yet? No. Like Cooper Flag has been able to show he can be the best player on a team, and the same thing with kind of multiple of those guys. Like Hopper has had his moments where he's been the best guy on the floor, and then the same thing even with VJ Edgecombe. Ace Bailey, we haven't seen that yet from. So obviously there's a lot there to kind of unfold, but excited to see where things end up, 2, 3 years down the line with these guys. And before we transition to talk about the Celtics, I know Aiden already kind of answered it. He's expecting the Knicks to probably win, the rest of the series. What about you, James, though? How would you say the rest of the series is going to go here in the NBA Finals? Do you think the Spurs have the chance to try to take game 4 at Madison Square Garden and flip this series around?
I think they have a chance to take game 4. I don't think they will. I think I think the Knicks are going to overpower them in their home. Like I think they should have probably done it last night, but I think it's coming. Like I think it's loading and it's about to drop on them. And I think like one of those guys that Aiden kind of mentioned is going to have a big game, whether it's Bridges or OG or Hart. Even like Hart had a big game, one with 15 rebounds. But I think like scoring wise, like one of them is going to light it up. And like personally, I think Bridges is a very special player. Like as a Celtics fan, I got a really good look at him last postseason, and he was a killer. He just like very efficient shooter and scored like extremely efficiently and just really he gutted us. Like he was so like hustling the whole time. Like it was bad. Like he was a killer, and I think somebody's gonna have a big game and they're gonna take it. I think I got the Knicks in probably 6 games. I think.
Very much could be the case. I think this game 4 kind of decides the series. Knicks win, they go up 3-1. Presumably, they're going to win probably in 5 or 6 games. If they do lose game 4, obviously it's going to end in 6 no matter what, or 7. But I do think if it goes 2-2, the Spurs obviously have a major advantage going back home with it being 2-2 after being down 2-0. I think even regardless of what happens tomorrow night, I think even if the Spurs win, which my prediction is the Spurs will win tomorrow night, I just have a feeling for some reason. Especially with the way they won last night, it being a close game. They finally found a way to win close. They couldn't do that in game 2. They found a way to do so, obviously, in game 3. If they do win tomorrow night, I still think the Knicks win the series. I think that's going to be the way things play out. I think it's 2-2 after 4, and I do think the Knicks still probably win in 7 games. What about you, Aiden, though? What would you say is the outcome? I know you said you have the Knicks winning. You think they'll win tomorrow night and make it a 3-1 series, a commanding lead?
I do. I think they'll win tomorrow night. I got a feeling they're going to steal one at Madison Square. Like, or I shouldn't even say steal one because it is home court, but I think they'll defend home court. I think they'll win. I think they'll win tomorrow night, and then I do think that the Spurs will probably win Game 5, and then I think that the Knicks eventually will win it in I think 6 games. But what do I know?
No, it's great. great prediction though, because I think the way things have gone, the Knicks have played the most consistent basketball in this series and obviously in the NBA over the past month and a half, right? Like after they were down 2-1 to Atlanta, which are a much different team, they flipped a switch and found a way to go on a run where they won, I think it was 13 straight games, right? So we've obviously seen them do it. And obviously they're very capable. And the Spurs have been a little bit erratic at times, especially in this series where they've had some really good stretches and then some really bad ones, some high peaks, obviously, and then some low lows. So see, where they, end up falling tomorrow night, how things go. I do think Spurs win tomorrow night. I think at the end of the day, when you look at these two teams, I think the Spurs are just very reliant on Wemby, which was kind of the case all year. Spencer in our office made a good point. It was yesterday. He said that during the regular season, the Spurs were so good because they let the guys around him do as much as they could. So Dylan Hopper and Devin Vassell and De'Aaron Fox, even Cornette got minutes off the bench in the regular season. They let other guys do things so that way Wemby wouldn't be tired, at the end of the game and be as worn down. In the playoffs, they just relied on him so much more because they kind of have to. What do you guys think it would take for the Spurs to win tomorrow night in Game 4? We saw them obviously win a close game last night, a very physical game, albeit. But what do you guys think it would take for them to win a Game 4 tomorrow night?
I think
I
a lot.
think. Oh,
Yeah,
go
go.
ahead, Aiden.
You can go.
Okay. I think a really big performance from either Stephon Castle or De'Aaron Fox. I know the first two games of the series, Fox was like non-existent. I think he was averaging 14 points a game for the first two games. That's not acceptable for like the number two on the team, or even the number three. Like that's not enough. Like you need to aid Wemby. You got to help him out. He can only do so much. Like you got to help him out and score a little bit more. Like that's your role, is getting to the hoop and scoring. So I think it would take a big game from either Fox or Castle, which I think they're more than capable of. I do think the Knicks are going to win. I think they're going to. That depth is just crazy to me.
Mhm.
I guess kind of hitting on that depth for them to get going. I feel like a lot of it comes in transition and a lot of transition threes specifically from the Knicks, outside of obviously Brunson and when Cat is kind of running the show, running point. But a lot of that I feel like comes from transition threes and kind of like playing the game fast for guys like Shamit and Deuce McBride, kind of those guys getting those like transition threes, kind of quick offense. And I think that the Spurs need to focus on slowing that down to kind of hold those guys in and then play as what they've played against Brunson so far, which has been pretty solid defense. I know he hasn't shot amazing during these finals, but obviously he's going to get his. He's Jaylen Brunson. He's going to get to the line. But I think slowing them down in transition would go a long way for San Antonio tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think with San Antonio too, they need to make more adjustments mid-game. We've seen Mitch Johnson do a little bit of that last night, but for the most part in this series, he's been outcoached by Mike Brown. Outcoached, when you're in the NBA Finals, is they're both two great coaches. So at the end of the day, they're both gonna have different game plans, and kind of the way you adjust mid-game is sometimes the way you win. I feel like Mitch Johnson didn't really make as many adjustments mid-game as Mike Brown has. Brown's a great coach and obviously been an NBA coach for a long time, so he has that advantage there. But two very good coach. We'll see, obviously what the game plan is for each of the two teams tomorrow night. I think transition game does make a big difference. Aiden, it's a great point. And then with you, James, the point you made, Stephon Castle, a guy like that getting going, where they're not as reliant on Wemby, can be a big difference maker. And then you look at the other side. I think you guys both made the great point of there's a lot of guys that can beat you on the Knicks. Landry Shamet being one, a guy that's shown up a lot in the playoffs. And when you have him cooking next to Jalen Brunson and Cat and OG Anunoby, it just makes the game easier on, those superstars that are around him, in Jalen Brunson. So we'll see how things work out. I want to transition now and talk about the Celtics. Obviously, they have a lot of questions around them this offseason, coming off a tough first round exit against Philly in 7 games. What do you guys think of the Jaylen Brown trade rumors? And if you were the Celtics GM, do you think it would be the right move to move on from Jaylen Brown? I'll start with you, Aiden. This is something we've talked about in the office over the past, month or so. What are your thoughts on those trade rumors? And like I said, would you move Jaylen Brown if you're the GM?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Joey, we have talked about this at length, and I feel like I've gone back and forth on it a lot. I do think at the end of the day, I think as a Celtics fan and just a basketball fan in general, I do think that sticking it out and having the Jays play together is ultimately where I do want to see this go. I know that in the last couple of days we've kind of heard the rumors that Giannis to the Celtics is unlikely, and that to me is kind of the only trade that I would look at for Jaylen. I don't think trading him to. I know a lot of people have been mocking him to Atlanta in a trade. I'm not sure what exactly you get in that return that would be an upgrade. Like, I don't think you'd be really walking away with any sort of upgrade from there. But I don't think Jaylen has helped his case a ton in terms of making this a noisy topic. I know he had to go on his own Twitch stream and kind of talk about that a little bit, and say he was like not upset, but more so like a little surprised maybe that Brad had to come out and say we're not shopping Jaylen Brown. And I know Windhorst recently said, Brian Windhorst of ESPN recently said that he's not heard anything that Jaylen's available. But overall, I don't think that if I was the GM, I would look to trade Jaylen. I think I would do other things that I know we're going to talk about some other topics about what I would do with the Celtics, but I wouldn't trade Jaylen. I don't think you're going to get a solid return. I will say a year ago, ironic that the Spurs are in the finals because I was looking at if they were going to trade Jaylen, that I was hoping to get from San Antonio Stephon Castle in the number 2 pick, which could have been Dylan Harper. So that would have been interesting. I think that would have been crazy. What if? I wonder where the Spurs would be today and where the Celtics would be today. That's kind of a different story. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't trade Jaylen right now.
What about you, James?
Yeah, so on the contrary, I would actually be looking to trade him if I were the Celtics general manager. Um, the main reason is his defense. Like, I think his defense is atrocious. I think lack of effort on defense. I think he does not play team defense very well. He kind of like follows the ball and like he has bad eyes and he lets a lot of like backdoor cuts and he lets guys dribble by him and go right by him and get to the hole, which is just not good for our team. And then we have other guys that have to like step in and try to save him, like Derek White. And when Holiday was here, we had Holiday trying to save him. Like, we have these elite defenders and then we have Jaylen Brown. Like, I think that's a big contrast. Like, we need guys that are like more team oriented, I think, like than Jaylen. And maybe I'm one in a million that thinks this, but like I think if you do trade him and you kind of like gain some more assets, like I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Like to kind of like restart a little bit. Like Tatum is not old. Like he's like 28, 29, and you have plenty of time to keep building a contender with this current core right now. And you can trade Jaylen and get a massive haul. We've seen so many players like Rudy Gobert go for like 4 first-round picks. Like imagine what Jaylen would fetch you on the market. You obviously wouldn't come out on top. You probably wouldn't get a superior player, but you'd get somebody very good and then multiple draft picks, which could be huge. Like I believe in the drafting of the Celtics. The amateur scouting is really good, really advanced. Like I think we could draft a couple really good players and build like a potential like dynasty down the line. Like you kind of dump you and then you another thing, you offload his contract. Like he's getting paid so much money and like you're paying all that money for a guy that is only really playing on one side of the ball. Like him and James Harden for me are like in the same category, like one-way players. Like they can't play. You want a two-way player, like you're not going to find it with Jaylen Brown or James Harden. Like I know it's kind of a harsh reality, and I love Jaylen, but you watch enough games, you see how his defense really, really affects the team.
I, if I can step in,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put him on. I'm not saying you're saying this, but I wouldn't put him on the Harden level defensively. I do think he's a good athlete. I do agree with you that he does get lost sometimes in the defense, kind of just ball watching. I totally agree with that. And it does cause other guys to need to step in for him. I guess just with this win now mode and the fact that this series against Philly kind of changed the whole outlook against or what the Celtics season was. Like prior to that series, if you asked, are we trading Jaylen Brown? I think that's not even a question. It's like, no, not even close. Like he's an MVP candidate. So I guess I'm not going to let one series completely change my answer to where we need to trade Jaylen. We need to do this now. Because I mean, we've seen other championship cores where your Jokic and Murray, for example, like they didn't break them up because they've gone 2 years without a ring. Like they kept them together. They kept even Aaron Gordon. Like they kept their top 3 guys together. So I think running it back for a couple more years, just kind of seeing what you can do, retooling that roster, getting a full year from Tatum. I'm excited for what's going to happen.
And it's not a bad position to be in where the Celtics are at, right? Like you already have a really good roster coming back, a roster that honestly surprised a lot of people this year, even with Tatum being out for a majority of the season. The Celtics were a top team in the East, and they were very competitive all year long. And then things did go a little bit downhill in the playoffs. Tatum obviously being out for Game 7 didn't help. And then Jaylen obviously, and the Celtics had their shooting woes in Game 7, which obviously that Missoula ball strategy is just shoot as many threes as you can. You're going to win some games like that. You're going to lose some games like that. And obviously that day, it was a roll of the dice that hurt the Celtics, shooting that many threes in Game 7. But I'm kind of in the middle on trading Jaylen Brown. If I had to choose a side, the reason I'm in the middle is this. I think you need to obviously get a reasonable return for him. Like, I'm not trading him just to trade him. But at the same time as well, though, like, I do hear what James is saying there. Like, at the end of the day, like, he may not fit the exact style, which the Celtics obviously are a three-point shooting team, and he could fit that style because he can score the ball. But the way the Celtics won was with guys that could play kind of both ways around Jaylen, around Jason Tatum. They don't really have that, as much right now. So if you could trade him and get a guy that could play maybe both sides of the ball, that would be an advantage. But I'm not just shopping him just to shop him. I will say this, though. I do think a lot of the time people have said in the past that Tatum and Brown are friends and that anything, in reports that, they don't like each other is all just, hearsay and naysay. But I personally think at the end of the day, I think they tolerate each other. I don't think they're necessarily like that close. So I think if there were to be a rift between the two of them, I think the Celtics would side with Tatum and then Jaylen would be the guy kind of being on the way out. That's obviously just my opinion at the end of the day. It's not like I can base that on anything. It's just kind of what I see when I watch the games. But I do think, though, I'm on the middle on it. Like, I wouldn't trade him just to trade him. But at the same time as well, if you get a good return and you can get a guy that maybe can be an upgrade on the defensive end and be somewhat comparable on the offensive end, it would be nice. But a lot of time when you trade superstars, right, you don't really get that equal return. You guys both made, that point, and I think it was James that said it, that you don't really get that superstar back usually when you trade that guy. So it is tough moving him. And that kind of leads me to my next question. And these are kind of two questions I'm going to combine. How would you address the offseason if you were Brad Stevens, which it could be trade Jaylen Brown, it could not be trade Jaylen Brown? And if you were the Celtics GM, what's one thing you would change? Those kind of coincide together, I feel like. But the reason I asked that second one is maybe you tell Joe Mazzulla, the head coach, hey, we're not going to take as many threes next year. Maybe that's one thing you would try to change with the team more than just, a roster move like a trade or a signing. So I'll let you guys answer that however you'd like. I'll start with Aidan with that. I know that was a question I asked you over the last day or so in the office. That's why I wanted to ask it here.
Yeah, so that's a good one, Joey. Honestly, it's tough. I know you said the Celtics are in a good spot, and they are. It's definitely tough. I think that if I were the Celtics and I was looking to address their needs, I think the number one need you have is certainly a two-way center. I think a lot of it we tried to kind of do a center by committee, almost like a closer by committee in baseball kind of deal, where we had Kata kind of be our center. Obviously, Kata was the starter, and Kata had a great season. I love what Kata did. I just think I would love Kata even more if he kind of played that Mitchell Robinson role that he plays for the Knicks and kind of came off the bench, was more of the defensive, like bench rim protector, as opposed to having to be the guy that is going to be scoring a lot because as we saw in the playoffs, trying to kind of supplement with Luka Garza and Kata at center kind of ran into its problem, honestly, when Embiid was playing against us. So I think addressing the center position and getting a two-way guy. The Vucevic trade wasn't ideal, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say that that was the most well-executed trade. Obviously, Anthony Simons was playing amazing for the Celtics. You had to get a center though, so I get what they were doing. You had to go get a big man. So I think that addressing the center position would be big. And then I guess in kind of just the overall what I was hinting at earlier, just changing the philosophy of the team. I do think it's just something that's been touched upon a lot by people, but the Celtics frankly shot a lot of three-pointers and relied way too heavily, and they died by the three-point shot in the playoffs this year. That was no debate. They went up 3-1, and then you lose that series. So a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were shooting close to, I forget what the average was. I think it was like 43 plus threes a game, something around that. I know last year against New York, we shot 60 in a playoff game. So you think we'd learn our lesson? Hey, like the 3-point shot alone isn't gonna get you to the finals. I mean, look at the Knicks; they're shooting a lot of two-point shots. But that's probably what I would do if I was running the show there.
What about you, James?
Yeah, I definitely like agree with a lot of what Aiden said. Like especially the 3-point comment. We definitely lived and died by the 3-pointer this year, and ultimately, it's why we lost. Like we lost to the Sixers because we chucked up a lot of threes, didn't hit a lot of them, and the Sixers were taking better shots than us. So I think they really need to emphasize shot selection and like prioritizing taking 2-point field goals instead of 3-point field goals. Like I really think that that'll benefit us because we have a lot of like really good like mid range scores and like it doesn't matter how great of a 3-point shooter you are. Like everyone has off nights. Like I swear, like I saw stretches where Hauser would like miss 10 in a row or then make like 5 in a row. So it was very up and down. And like it's really tough to like live by that 3-point shot because you can have flawless execution, you can have perfect spin on the ball and everything, and have your eyes right, elbows follow through everything right, and just it could just clank out or roll out. But as far as like layups and dunks, like we need more of that. Like he said, we need a center. I totally agree with that. I thought the Vucevic trade was a disaster. I think letting Simons go for that was absolutely horrific. At first I was really excited to have Vucevic because I've been a big fan of his for a while. Thought he was a great offensive center, but like Aiden said, we need a defensive center as well. We need a two-way guy. We need a guy that can play both sides of the ball and just like dominate on the glass. Like both teams in the finals right now have dominant big men. Cat can shoot like crazy. He's one of the best 3-point shooting big men like of all time. And then you have Wemby, who's just a freak and can do everything on the court as well. So like we need someone like that. Like we need to get. I'm not saying we need to get someone of that caliber because I don't think we need that to go over the top. But I think we do need a very very good center that can shoot a little bit and play some defense.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great point. You're right. Like there are two dominant big men on each side. Obviously, Wemby kind of both ways. Cat typically offensively is dominant, not always on the defensive end, but this series he's definitely impressed me with his hustle and kind of positioning against Wemby. And the refs obviously have had some tougher moments. Like I feel like they've been letting them play a lot. I know the Knicks had a tough whistle last night. They called a lot more fouls on the Knicks than they did the Spurs, but Cat's been playing a lot more physical than he has in the past. I feel like positioning wise, he's been better as well this series, which Mike Brown has been, a good defensive coach. Obviously, we saw in Sacramento a few years ago, and they made the playoffs. They were kind of great both ways, but they had kind of a defensive mentality, and we see this Knicks team as well. A lot of guys that are versatile that could do a lot of things, and then you have two big men that obviously are very different. Mitchell Robinson is really just defense. You have Cat, who typically is really just more of an offensive contributor, but right now we obviously is playing better defense, and the Celtics don't really have force on either side of the ball right now as a big man. They don't have a force of a big man on the offensive side or the defensive side. I do like Cater a lot. I think Aiden made a great point. Like he could play that Mitchell Robinson role for the Celtics and be a guy off the bench and maybe get some spot starts when guys are injured or when they want to mix up the lineup. But I do agree they need to go out and maybe add a big man. We'll see what they end up doing. I think they're not in the worst position, especially when you have two guys that are still under 30 years old that have won an NBA Finals together, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Things could be a lot more daunting. If the Celtics didn't get that ring a few years ago, we'd be in a much different situation. I feel like there'd be a lot more pressure on them. But just winning a few years ago, I think, gives them a little bit more ease, and they know they can win with this core, even if they have to retool a little bit. But before I flip over to the NFL, is there anything else you guys want to add in about the NBA or the Celtics?
What a time for the NBA. I'll just say that. Great time to be an NBA fan. Great for the league. As much as a lot of people don't like New York, it's great when they're in the finals because I mean, yeah, just I know the ratings are going to be very good and everybody's tuned in for sure. I know that.
I'll
Yeah.
say this. I'm very thankful, and I don't like to do this very often, but I'm very thankful the Thunder are not in the finals again. I just the brand of basketball that they play with the foul baiting and the free throws, it's so painful to watch. Like it's borderline not basketball. I'm thrilled that they did not make the finals again because I don't think you should be rewarded for baiting someone else into a foul. And like I think the one year I can't remember exactly what year it was, but we did the NBA was like more strict on foul baiting and they'd actually call a foul on you if you tried to foul bait somebody else. From what I remember, like I remember seeing a clip of Trey Young um, like pump fake in the air and then get a guy to jump and then he just jumped up and threw up a horrific shot, and they called the foul on Trae Young. Like, I think we need to do more of that. I think you got to like punish guys for foul baiting. I think it's such a bad brand of basketball.
Mhm. I think that was 2023 or 2022 when they implemented that like no flopping rule and kind of the foul booting
Yes,
thing where
yes,
if you shot a three but you kicked your leg out on
Kick your
purpose
leg,
or like
yes.
hit your arm out on
yes.
purpose when you shot a shot just to kind of get that guy when he's trying to extend to block a shot, you kind of make contact. They did get rid of that. I mean, I don't know if they got rid of it necessarily. They're not enforcing it anymore. I feel like that was
No.
like for one season. I feel like it was like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, where like you'd see some points that call that, and then now obviously it's kind of gone away. And I think it was because of like Luka and Jokic had their moments of like kind of flopping just to get a foul call over the years, just to point out two guys that are top players in the league, but got to the line a lot and did so by foul baiting. I feel like that was a rule against them, but then now in recent years. The NBA really hasn't enforced that. So that's definitely something they should probably look into since that brand of basketball isn't necessarily the most fun to watch. I do think SGA doesn't even need to foul bait. Like he's so offensively gifted. He can go off at 30 even without the free throws. I know a lot of the time he ends up having 18 free throws on 35 points, but he doesn't really need to do that. He's such a good bucket getter and can create his own shot just about as good as anybody in the NBA. He doesn't really need to do all that. So I am with you there, James. And as for you, Aiden, what you said, like I agree. Like the NBA, they're at a really good point right now, especially with this NBA Finals. Like this was an NBA Finals, a lot of people kind of overlooked. People thought whoever was in the West was just going to win. But then when you have the Knicks win the first two games, it creates a bigger buzzer on the NBA Finals. And now people are going to be locked into game four to see how the series will flip, tomorrow night, whether the Knicks win and take a commanding lead or the Spurs, even it up at 2-2. So we'll see how things work out. Now we'll flip over and talk about the NFL. We'll talk about the Patriots, which obviously coming off a year that I know is a disappointing end losing in the Super Bowl, but when you look at the year overall, that big jump going from a four-win team that is picking in the top five to making the Super Bowl is a miraculous turnaround within 1 year. When you look back at that 2025 season of the Patriots, and I'll start with you, James, did you ever foreshadow the Patriots making that jump from being a four-win team to being a Super Bowl contender within year one of Mike Vrabel's tenure in New England?
Absolutely not. I really didn't. And I love to go down the schedule before the season starts and try to count as many wins as I can. And I try to be favorable for the Patriots and try to take everything into account. But I had them about 10 or 11 wins. And the fact that we made it all the way to the Super Bowl and we competed against such an amazing Seahawks team. I know it wasn't super close. The Seahawks took care of business like they should have. That defense was phenomenal. Sam Darnold was lights out in the Super Bowl. Kenneth Walker was obviously huge, being the Super Bowl MVP. But I did not at all have us making the Super Bowl like we did. And from drafting Will Campbell to going all the way to the Super Bowl is like just complete 180. Like I couldn't couldn't have imagined it even better than that.
Mhm. I completely hear you on that. I was probably on the higher end than most people on the Patriots. Like I didn't see them going to the Super Bowl. I think I had them at 9 wins or 10 wins, which there are people last year that were predicting them at 7 wins and 8 wins, which honestly somewhat made sense. They were in a rebuild, right? If you go from 4 wins to 8 wins, that's an improvement. So I had them be a competitive ball club. I didn't see them winning, obviously as many games as they wanted making the Super Bowl. But obviously a very good year for the franchise. What would you say, Aiden, to that question? Did you foreshadow the Patriots making that big of a jump?
No, I did not. Last year I was able to actually work. I worked there part-time for the Patriots, so that I was very lucky that last year was my first year. Had a great time doing that, and yeah, that was it. Just was a special season overall. And did I see it happening? No, not exactly. I think to go to the Super Bowl is just it's so rare to make it, and we're spoiled as Patriots fans. So we've definitely been able to be there a couple of times, and the fact that we were there again last year was just it was awesome, and hopefully we can build on it this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a special year, obviously, just making it to the Super Bowl. But when you factor in those expectations that people had around them, right? Like lower expectations, people thought they'd be, right around the playoffs, maybe not being a playoff team, just to be able to make it and then make that deep of a run is obviously big time. And they just made a big time move over the past couple weeks now. They did trade for AJ Brown. This was sometime in the last 10 days, making a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, a first round pick, and I believe it was a fifth round pick from the Patriots going to Philly for AJ Brown. What are you guys' thoughts on that trade? And what are your expectations now for Drake May now that he has a top end wide receiver target?
Well, I would say, first of all, too, Joey, I know you're a Giants fan. I'm happy for you that he's out of your division. Although it might have been beneficial to the Eagles. I know that AJ and the Eagles weren't, I guess, like getting along swimmingly. Like a lot of stuff's coming out about Jalen Hurts and all that kind of stuff. But my thoughts overall, it was just such a relief to get that trade done. Personally, from my point of view, just kind of, I know like Adam Schefter and all the NFL insiders, everybody from every network was saying on June 1st, it's pretty likely it's going to happen. So once that was reported and the fact that we kind of had to sit here and wait for it, the fact that it took that long, and then the fact that it actually did pan out. I know there was some last minute buzz about certain teams like the Chiefs maybe or someone else kind of snagging AJ. So the fact that we got him and he's going to be catching balls from Drake is just very exciting.
What about you, James? What are your thoughts on that AJ Brown trade? Obviously, great for Drake May to get a top wide receiver target, which the Patriots have needed now for years.
Yeah, so to start off, I can't remember as long as I've been a fan of the NFL, a trade being talked about as far in advance as this one has been talked about. So the fact that it was talked about for so long kind of actually made me nervous, and I was a little like skeptical of maybe it's kind of like smoke and mirrors because sometimes teams do that type of thing. Like, oh yeah, they throw out a report that this team's interested just in order to get another team interested that they want to deal with. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. And when the deal was complete, I just unbelievably like happy for the Patriots and Drake May. Going back to last year, like talking about the expectations of the team, like obviously we had Stephon Diggs, but like the wide receiver room was really like not highly touted at all. I mean, it was Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, who hadn't really done a whole lot in the NFL, Pop Douglas, Kyle Williams, Efton Chisholm. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but not a whole lot of like really top end talent in there. I mean, Diggs obviously had a phenomenal season. Booty had a phenomenal season, but those guys like those aren't huge names. Like those are not AJ Brown quality receivers. And the fact that Drake May was able to lead the Patriots to a Super Bowl with that wide receiver room is pretty spectacular. I know all the schedule people love to talk about the schedule and talk about how they put a jersey with the 10 on it and they put in the schedule. But just the fact that like he now has a top end talent, like we saw what Brady did with Randy Moss. I think it could very likely be like that. Like he could be, and I'm not saying he's going to break records or anything crazy, but he could be throwing like 40 touchdowns for all we know. Like he could make that jump. He threw 31 last year, 8 picks, 4,000 something yards. Like he very likely could make that jump to an MVP candidate, and he was already an MVP candidate. He can make that jump from MVP candidate to MVP favorite within a year. Like I think that's how big. You can't even like talk about how big AJ Brown is for the Patriots and for Drake May.
Yeah, you made a great point. Obviously, now you're going to expect more touchdown passes out of him, which I think at the end of the day as well, with more touchdown passes and obviously throwing deep more to AJ Brown, there's going to be some more interceptions, but that's fine, right? That's what you kind of take at the end of the day when you're going deep and you're playing more aggressively. But just to have that talent in their wide receiver room is important. I do think, obviously, like Aiden already noted, like there were issues probably in the locker room with AJ Brown and the Eagles. Hopefully that doesn't carry over to the Patriots. Just based on reports, it seems like, there's some character issues with him in the locker room. And hopefully now his relationship with Mike Vrabel is able to, translate to winning for the Patriots and obviously keeping him locked in so that, it wouldn't be the same situation that he had in Philly over the last couple of years where he was upset with his target share and it was upset with at times Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley kind of being, the lead options on that offense, or even Jalen Hurts' running ability kind of being that primary offensive, option. Hopefully, the Patriots system, I'm sure they're going to prioritize him a lot. And obviously his relationship with Mike Vrabel is going to hopefully keep him, in check and locked in. But the Patriots also upgraded their offensive line over the offseason. They did also draft Caleb Lomu in the first round, an offensive lineman out of Utah. And we also saw them as well, last year, a guy you guys already mentioned, Will Campbell was obviously a top pick last year. And I know he struggled, especially late in his rookie year in the playoffs. But that's obviously a guy as well that could really develop and maybe take a step, towards the right direction this offseason and obviously heading into next season where it can really strengthen the Patriots offensive line if he plays better. What are you guys' thoughts on him? Do you guys expect him to take that step up and kind of figure things out? And that's for Will Campbell. You think he could figure things out and try to recover from, a tougher end to his rookie year?
Yeah, so I think I'm higher on Will Campbell than most. I think he, outside of a few games in the regular season, I thought he played very well. Struggled a lot against Myles Garrett, but I mean, who doesn't struggle against Myles Garrett? It's Myles Garrett. I mean, he was unbelievable that day. Like he was on. He's just a freak of nature. Like he's unbelievable. But I do think Will Campbell is going to improve. I think, especially as a former offensive lineman, like obviously not to the level Will Campbell is, but you have to be thrown into the fire and you have to have those losing reps to know how to win those reps in the future. So I think going against guys like Will Anderson, Myles Garrett, Jonathan Cooper, what's his name on the Broncos, Nick Bonito, like those type of guys, like that is so in like that experience is so invaluable to him. Like he's just going to improve, I think, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are talking about putting him at guard and then moving Lomu over to tackle. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think he could be a really good guard. Put him in a phone booth with somebody else, and he can latch onto them and just hold down his own because he's a strong guy. I know he doesn't have the longest arms, but he's a really strong kid, and I like his attitude. I think he played very well against some elite edge rushers in this league. Like I specifically was at the Steelers game. I thought he played very well against T.J. Watt, who's obviously a very dominant edge rusher. And I do think Will Campbell is going to get it together. And I really do like, as you mentioned, the Caleb Lomu pick. I think he's kind of like the size and the frame of an NFL tackle, and that's what the Patriots needed in case we do have to move Campbell to guard, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I really don't think so.
Absolutely. I think moving him inside is definitely an option, which is nice to know you have that option. I think keeping him on the outside just for now, see how the first 6 to 8 games go of the season. The Patriots are in a different position than the Giants were in. Like over the years, we've had Eric Flowers and Evan Neal, top draft picks that struggled on the line, but we were in a rebuild, so it was fine. You give them that second, maybe even third year, and give them those extra reps to see if they can figure it out. The Patriots are coming off a year they made the Super Bowl, so there's a lot more pressure on Campbell and the Patriots to obviously figure things out and try to get back there. So if he's struggling 8 games through the season, maybe you do make that transition midway through. And I know that's never an easy decision to make. But the Patriots are in that position right now where you do want to kind of maximize on this current window. So if that's kind of what they have to do, then I'd agree with it, especially if it's something that could help the team. But I do think he can bounce back. I think Campbell, the injuries were tough at the end of the season. He was playing hurt. Then you also factor in you're playing against a lot of good pass rushes. Benito obviously being one, Will Anderson being one, Khalil Mack being another. Like they went up against a lot of tough defenses to finish that season. And then you factor in it's a playoffs and you're playing in New England, right? Where there's a lot of pressure on you as well, where the fans and the media can obviously, get on you when you're struggling. So it's not the easiest place to succeed. And then you add in as well just a playoff atmosphere. So I do think Campbell can bounce back, and I'm honestly confident in the kid. I do feel bad with the way things ended because I think a lot of people were critical of him. And I understand why, but at the same time as well, like he was playing hurt, and maybe he was better than that option you would have had off the bench, coming in those positions, late in the season. But we'll see how he develops. And now, one question I want to ask you guys is, what player do you think will surprise fans this upcoming season? One guy that people are maybe overlooking, or a guy that doesn't really get talked about as much, or maybe in addition they had this offseason that you think is going to catch some eyes and surprise some people this year. I'll give you my thoughts. I think Kyle Williams takes a step up this season. I know he had a couple flashes, not too many as a rookie, but had some. But now you have AJ Brown in this offense that can really direct eyes his way. That's going to open up the lanes for some other guys around him to get open and make some big plays. So I think Kyle Williams is my guy to be a breakout player this year for the Patriots. I'll let you guys kind of answer that question, any way you'd like. I'll start with you, Aiden.
Yeah, kind of similar. I was definitely thinking very similar. I also think Kyle Williams will have an improved role this year. I think he'll get more targets with the more reps that he's had and just like kind of more time in the system. I think my overall pick is going to be Pop Douglas. I think he's going to open up a lot of the AJ, I should say. AJ Brown's going to open up a lot for Pop Douglas underneath. And I think that Pop will get a lot of catches, a lot of targets from there. And I think we've seen what he can do when the deep ball's working, when at the end of the year, when Booty really was progressing, or at the beginning, I should say, and the end of the year. Booty, I know, he was injured for a little bit, but when the deep ball was really going, underneath stuff to Demario Douglas was there. I think that this year with AJ Brown and Booty going to be on the outside, I think a lot will be there for Pop Douglas to go at, and I think he'll have a monster season.
What about you, James?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to flip sides of the ball. I think safety Craig Woodson is going to have a big year for the Pats. I think he had a very phenomenal rookie year. He was a 4th-round pick. He, again, like thrown into the fire, like no expectations for this guy. And I thought his coverage skills were very good. He made a ton of tackles on the year, and he was an impactful player like from day one. And I don't quote me on this, but I do believe he started almost every game, and he was very good overall. Like I remember watching him play and just being like, just a very impactful player from day one. 4th-round pick out of Cal. Just like I have a weird feeling that he's going to have a really good year and develop. Like New England, we have a very like odd talent of like developing secondary players. Obviously Christian Gonzalez was a high talent coming in, but I look back at guys like J.C. Jackson, who had a phenomenal run with the Patriots for a couple of years there. You look at Stephon Gilmore, he peaked here. He won Defensive Player of the Year. You look at like the McCourty brothers. There's so many different examples I could use of the secondary guys just balling out in New England. And I think Woodson is like fit for that next guy to do that.
Yeah, that's a really good guy to pick. He's a guy that's under the radar, and you were right. 17 games played last year, 15 starts, had 2 fumble recoveries, 79 combined tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and then you're obviously starting 15 games in the regular season for a team that went to the Super Bowl. So you obviously get a lot of experience under your belt, and now you're making that step in year 2 where you already got your feet wet. You already played in the NFL and held your own. Now you can take that next step up. So I like both of those picks. Douglas has definitely shown a lot of flashes, and he's a guy that's, twitchy receiver that can get open a lot. Now when you have AJ Brown, just like with Kyle Williams, these guys I think are going to have some more avenues to get open and maybe have the opportunity to be, a bigger play receiver, make some big plays this upcoming season. So, and we've seen some flashes from both those guys, Douglas and Williams. So it's not like they really haven't shown, much promise, but I think they're going to have a bigger role in this offense now with AJ Brown, which a lot of people might look at it differently and say, well, now AJ Brown's going to take all their reps. Well, Diggs at the end of the day did get a lot of targets last year, and those guys still showed some flashes. Now, when you're adding an even more talented receiver and AJ Brown, who's younger, and I know he has the knee injuries, that a knee concern at least, that might be concerning to some. At the end of the day, he has all offseason now to get right. And, now when he steps in next year, he's in a system that he's going to be obviously acclimated to. It's not like the Patriots are doing this midseason. They're doing it, obviously in the offseason. So there's time for him to get healthy and then obviously figure out the playbook, obviously, and set him up for success. And that's going to help just the rest of the guys in that offense, including Drake May. But before I transition to talk about baseball, anything else you guys want to add in about the Patriots in the NFL, or you guys ready to jump over and talk some baseball and talk the Red Sox?
I think we're ready to talk about the Sox, unless James has something.
Yeah, I got one quick thing about football. I know we talked about the Patriots making this big jump and going all the way to the Super Bowl. I do think the Giants have the makings to become a very shocking team this year and to win a lot of games and maybe make a playoff run of their own. I don't know what will happen. We'll have to see. I believe in Jackson Dart a lot. I think he's a very talented kid. I think he needs to be careful about getting hit. But I think there's a lot of talent on that Giants team. And I think trading away Lawrence for it was more than one first round pick, right?
We got the 10th overall pick, which ended up being Mawanoa, CC Mawanoa, the offensive line.
Yes, I think
We
that.
just got that, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I would take that too. I thought they nailed the draft and everything, but unrelated. I had to give your Giants some props. They've beaten us in 2 Super Bowls, but I do really think that they're going to have a good year. I think it's going to be a good time to be a Giants fan again.
I appreciate that. See, that's the beauty of our ability to talk sports. Us three, we could all have different opinions. Like I'm a Giants fan, obviously, so I might see the Patriots a little differently than you might, and same thing with the Giants. But at the end of the day, there's always that mutual respect. And obviously, I'm wishing the Patriots well, and I know, with you obviously saying the Giants could be that team taking a step up, you wish the Giants well too. And I know obviously there's history between the two franchises, so it's probably not easy to say that, but I do appreciate that, and I'm hopeful Jackson Dock can be the guy. I do think he is that next franchise quarterback for the Giants, something we've been looking for now, which I was a big Daniel Jones guy. I don't think we gave him a fair shake, and I think the fan base was critical of him more than they should have been. But at the end of the day, that's obviously in the past now, and we're still looking for our next franchise quarterback since Eli Manning left. And I think Jackson Dock could be that guy, and I'm hopeful. I think we had a good offseason. I think the most underrated addition, which I've told you this, James, multiple times. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, Aidan, but James and I have texted about it. I think Tremaine Edmonds is the best pickup for the Giants this offseason because linebacker, I mean, we did have a good defense and we had some good talent, but missed tackles have been a huge issue for this team 2, 3 years in a row now. We've been one of the worst teams in the league tackling. When you're adding Tremaine Edmonds, a guy that has a great football IQ and is very good defensively, where he knows kind of where to set up, can be a leader on the defense, and isn't really missing tackles too often. That's really important for this team. Having a guy that's really good pursuit wise and isn't missing tackles. So that's who I'm excited about most. And I know as well, James, when we were texting, we were talking about some of the other additions the Giants have had. Dono Mooney being one. That was before we signed Odell Beckham Jr. Now we get OBJ back. I want to ask your opinion on that. I know we texted about it for a second, but what are your thoughts on OBJ being back in a Giants uniform, James? And then I'll ask you the same, Aidan, as well.
I love it. I think it's great for football. I mean, every kid like our age grew up like loving Odell, the one-handed catch, the 13 jersey. Like everybody had one. Like it was so iconic. But I mean, as a football player, it'll be interesting to see how much he has left in the tank because I mean those knee injuries do really zap a lot of your athleticism, and he was a crazy athlete. I do think his catching ability and his route running is still going to be there, so I think he's going to make an impact. Just I think some people are going to probably have higher expectations compared to what they should. Like for I don't even know how old he is now, but they
33.
shouldn't have. How old is he?
33.
Yeah, so like a 33-year-old receiver. But they could shock you. I mean, Diggs went out last year off an injury like that, played 50% of the snaps and put up 1,000 yards. So you never know what'll happen. So I'm excited to see OBJ play again.
What about you, Aidan?
Yeah, so I'll also say something about the Giants. I think going and getting John Harbaugh to be your head coach is a slam dunk, grand slam. It's a great move, first of all. But talking about OBJ, yeah, similar over here. I think that it's great. A lot of our age grew up with OBJ, the one-handed catch, as James had mentioned, and the all the swag, if you will, about OBJ and 13 in New York. So it's definitely exciting. It's definitely gonna bring some eyes, more eyes to the Giants. I think it's already a pretty flamboyant group with Jackson and Cam Scadaboo and those guys. So it's a fun group, and I think OBJ just adds to that excitement. But at the same time, I think the head coach John Harbaugh knows what he's doing over there. Can really run a clean program over there, and I know as a Patriots fan, it's not obviously whatever Patriots Giants don't go along the best, but it's pretty apparent that the Giants are going to turn around very soon.
I hope so. And I appreciate you guys mentioning that. And I think the Harbaugh edition was big time because the Giants needed stability at the head coach position, which every team does. But the Giants, I feel like more than any, because we've had, and I guess the Jets as well, just there's a new coach, it feels like every 2 or 3 years, and we're never really finding a consistent winning formula. The Giants did have one really good season with Brian Daboll, and then besides that, really much down years, which was tough. And that's a hard thing is sustained winning in the NFL. I feel like that's the most difficult thing because you have injuries every year and you have guys that fall off, and then you'll have, just tough schedules, and sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. But Harbaugh had a lot of good, success in Baltimore. I think it was 18 seasons, and the same thing with Mike Tomlin. They had like 18 years in a row. They were always competitive and always in the conversation to potentially win their division, the AFC North, and then potentially win, the AFC. And hopefully that success does translate in New York there for Harbaugh, which, like you already mentioned, they have a lot of guys that are charismatic that are fan favorites. Scadaboo, Dart. I feel like as well, even on the defensive side, there are some guys that stand out. Brian Burns, obviously with this like a Spider-Man celebration that can get the fan base going when he has a big sack. We obviously didn't have that last year since even when he was getting 2 sacks a game at some points we were, losing. We were a team that was struggling and we're rebuilding. So there wasn't really much juice around us. But I feel like now that can be revitalized now with a new head coach. And then you obviously got Dot taking a step up, hopefully in year two. And you're adding Odell Beckham Jr., like you guys mentioned, was obviously a childhood favorite athlete for a lot of people, including myself. That's probably my favorite athlete ever, I would say. I know James and I have had that conversation before, favorite athletes. I feel like mine changes by the year and by the sport. But I think overall, if I had to pick one, it's probably Odell, to be honest. Like every stop he's gone to since he's left New York, I've always had my eyes on wherever he was and, was wishing him all the best. So excited to see him back in New York and we'll see how things go. But now we'll jump over and talk about the Red Sox. I have a question for you, Aidan, which obviously the Red Sox have had some turnover now over the last month and change just about. Do you think the Red Sox made the right move moving on from Alex Cora? And were you shocked by the move at the time?
I think so. First of all, I will say that I was pretty surprised by the move to move on from AC. I was definitely an AC fan. Obviously, as a Red Sox fan, I support the team as well, but was definitely a little surprised that they moved on from AC that early in the season. At the same time, I do think it's probably everybody got out of it like so much. The Red Sox got a World Series out of it with AC. AC got a World Series with us. We had some great memories with them, so. I'm very appreciative of the time that Cora was the manager of the Red Sox and that the Red Sox that era under Alex Cora. But I was surprised. And do I agree with it? I don't know. I think I'm more appreciative of the time with Alex over the years as opposed to like, oh, did they win? Did they not? I think it's still so early as I know we were talking about this earlier. It's so early in the process and um I do think on a separate note that AC would have been great going somewhere else like the Phillies. I know they offered him the job and I know he declined that, but maybe that shows that it was time for him to kind of take a break from this and spend some time with his family. So I'm happy for him that he's being able to be with his family more and that the Red Sox also at the same time are moving on too. I think that he's definitely a veteran focused manager. We saw when he has veterans around, he can really run the show, run a nice ship. And but I know we saw some of the younger guys kind of coming up now, so might be time for someone else to take over the reins.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think at the end of the day, they kind of seem like they might have ran their course, where obviously they did get a World Series out of it. So at the end of the day, you can always look back at this era and say it was a success in that way. But it seemed like from the quotes from Sam Kennedy and Craig Breslow as well, that it seemed like just it was the right time for the Red Sox to make a move and make a change. And it was early in the season, so I think that's the shocking part of it. But at the end of the day, sports is a results business, right? And when you're struggling early in the season, changes are typically going to be made, even if it's the first month in. You can't be shocked in any regard when I think the Red Sox were around like 8 games out of 500 or 10 games out of 500 at the time, so can't be shocked in that regard. But I do know there are a lot of questions heading from the offseason into the season around the Red Sox and some of the guys they had on their roster of guys that might take a step up. One guy that has been battling injury this year, so it hasn't been the ideal season for him, is Roman Anthony. Obviously, he's been hurt now for just about the last month, and the Red Sox have missed him in the lineup. Do you guys think the Red Sox placed, and whether that's the fan base, the front office, or both, do you think the Red Sox kind of placed too much of an expectation of high performance on Roman Anthony too early? Do you think they placed too high of expectations on him? And that could be for either of you.
Yeah, I think it's actually funny because I was looking through my camera roll or whatever, and today's the 1 year anniversary of his debut, and we were at that game, and just the excitement of it was insane. But I think the fan base has put quite a bit of pressure, but I think that's kind of what comes with being a Boston sports fan. Like you had pressure. Like Drake May got a lot of pressure before this season, and look what he did. Like I think it's kind of common for Boston fans, like myself included, all of us here, like you expect and demand excellence out of your athletes because we've seen it so many times before with great legends like Bill Russell, Tom Brady, Larry Bird, Zdeno Chara, even like hockey guy, like whoever you want to, Bobby Orr, whoever you want to talk about. Like we've witnessed so much greatness that you put all these great expectations on you all these great expectations on these guys. So it's just like it's definitely a lot on Roman for sure for being such a young kid, but I think he's eventually going to produce. I think he has been unlucky the first couple games, the first little stretch of the season, and then he got hurt. So like I think it's just a nightmarish start for him. But I don't think that's how his season will end. I think he'll bounce back. Hopefully, I really hope he comes back and is able to hit because he's just a phenomenal hitter. He's just got great like bat to ball skills. Like he's just phenomenal in that aspect.
Yeah, premier talent, obviously. And that's why at the end of the day, there are high expectations on him. And like you said best, right? We're in Boston, so the fan base is always going to expect more. We're just used to winning, right? We're growing up. I mean, we saw all four sports teams in Boston win at least one championship. So like we're so used to teams being competitive and a lot of the time as well with those teams, young guys that have blossomed into superstars, right? Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Mookie Betts, for the Red Sox, the Bruins, David Pastrnak. Like we've seen a lot of guys sprout into being that next level top tier talent. And another guy in for the Patriots, Tom Brady, obviously being one of the most decorated athletes, if not the most, in Boston sports history, right? Like we're so used to guys taking a step up and being, one of the best players in their respective sports. And I think that's what the Red Sox looked at, in regards to the fan base. We looked at Roman Anthony as being that next guy that was going to be the leader of the franchise and be one of the best players in the game. And obviously he can still get there, but I think the expectations were just a little bit too early around that, considering it's only still, this is like his first full season in the MLB. Like you said, he's only made his debut a year ago. So he missed some of last season playing in AAA. And now, obviously, with it being, midway through this season, it's only been a year since he was called up. So I think expectations were high, but you made a great point. Pressure's just always high in Boston. But what about you, Aidan? What are your thoughts on Roman Anthony and expectations around him?
Yeah, I definitely echo the sentiments of both of you guys. I think that the expectations were up from the fans were definitely a little high. I think that at the end of the day, when this injury obviously that popped up, a very unfortunate injury, has definitely been an ailment for him, more so than was originally believed to have been. I know at first it was, oh, it's only going to be a couple days, but it's turned into a little bit more than that. So I think that the fact that he has been out this long is it's definitely a little bit concerning, but at the same time, I have faith in him bouncing back. I'm definitely not worried at all. My expectations haven't changed for Roman much, but the fact that the season has gone this way so far, I mean, just the fact that he's been injured up to this point, and then I think that he'll bounce back though. I do. I have faith.
I hope so. And like you noted, right, it was supposed to be a 2 or 3 day thing, that injury, and then obviously it, sprouted into now being basically a month. It feels like he's been out, and it might be not a full month, but that's just the way it seems. Seems like it, especially when you're watching the Red Sox play. Like you can see them missing him in the lineup. One guy starting to heat up though is Jarren Duran, one guy that struggled a little bit early this season, but has now really found his footing with 9 home runs in May. That was very impressive. What are you guys' thoughts on Jarren Duran? Finding his groove and getting locked in so far. Especially now over the last 3 or 4 weeks, finally finding. What made him a big difference maker in the Red Sox lineup in the past was speed, and then obviously his ability to just get on base. He's starting to put it together recently. What are you guys' thoughts on Jarren Duran?
I think it's been great, honestly. I'm definitely big on Durant. I love the energy he plays with. I love his passion. I love that he's very open about his story in general. So the fact all of those factors contributing to the fact that he's playing so well right now, it's just awesome watching him rip the ball. Having that presence at the top of the lineup is just such a game changer for everybody else. Because when he gets going, then everybody else can kind of get going. When you have him on base, he's just a handful. So yeah, the fact that he's had 9 homers in May, as you mentioned, Joey, is honestly tremendous. And hopefully he can just keep ripping the ball and doing his part at the top of this lineup. And then other guys will fall out. It'll only provide some protection for those other guys, Sadon, Willier, Wilson, like all those guys. So I have faith that he'll continue to do it as well. And then from there, him doing that would allow for some more protection once Roman gets back. So it all kind of gives into each other. The fact it's like a trickle down effect in my view. But
What about you, James? What are your thoughts on Jarren?
Yeah, I thought Jaren's been he had an unbelievable month. It was great to see. Baseball's a game of runs and streaks and hot and cold, and I think he's very hot and cold as a hitter, but when he's hot, he's up there amongst the best. Like we saw his 2024 season where he won All-Star Game MVP. He was unbelievable the entire year. I believe he was an 8 to 10 WAR player that year, which is pretty incredible. If you do it out, that's like I think he was top 10 in MVP voting as well. Well deserved that year. He was phenomenal. He's a huge part of the Red Sox success. And if we want to win more games in the future, we need him to continue to play like this, which I think he will. I think he's a phenomenal player, immensely gifted, and also just works extremely hard. Wasn't the most highly touted prospect coming up, but just you heard about this kid hitting 400 in like A ball, and it's like, wow, he grew so much as a player. Like he's a phenomenal player all around.
Mm-hmm. And he's grown into a fan favorite here in Boston, obviously. And he's a guy that obviously was very willing to share his story, which obviously he did touch the fan base. And then he's a guy as well that had his struggles in Boston and really blossomed into, like you noted, an All-Star Game MVP, which is not something that's easy to do and something that is a career accolade he'll always have, especially when you play in the All-Star Game and you're sharing the same field with Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge and Tatis and all of those guys. You're sharing the field with so many talented players, Juan Soto being another. It's like to be out there, be the All-Star Game MVP is, a big time honor. And obviously he deserved that, hitting the home run that, did win the AL the game. And I want to ask you guys this, and you did just mention, obviously, he wasn't as highly, touted as a prospect, but obviously blossomed into something that was, really special for the Red Sox. There are two pitching, young pieces on the Red Sox roster right now that were top prospects for the Sox that have really blossomed so far in their first, kind of full season in the MLB. And that's obviously Connelly Early and Payton Tolle. And I know James and I kind of had this conversation over text, and we mentioned, who we think has the higher ceiling. Personally, I think it's Connelly Early. I think he has Cy Young stuff, but at the same time, Tolle has had that consistency and has thrown more strikes. It seems like more consistently than Connelly Early has, which Early I think will find his groove at some point strikes wise. I know he's gotten a little bit wild, especially early in games. He's had, some walks in the first and second innings. But I think Early's ceiling is special. I think his breaking ball is something that's a big difference maker. And I think is going to get him a lot of strikeouts that and one day, like I said, could translate to a potential Cy Young award. But what do you guys think of those two guys? And if you had a preference of one of those guys that you think had that has a higher ceiling, who would it be? I feel like that's a good debate because they're two very good players. So I feel like it can go one way or the other.
Yeah, I think while I definitely agree with you, Joey, that uh Early's breaking ball is great and he has Cy Young potential. I personally love the arm angle that Tolle throws at. I just like that angle. I also like his build over the long term, kind of just like while eating up all those innings. I think he's built for that. So I would lean towards Payton Tolle moving forward, but Early has probably been better to this point, if that makes sense, in terms of what he's done so far. I know Early they gave him the ball game 3, I believe it was, of the wild card last year against the Yankees. So they have the utmost faith in him, or at least Alex Cora did. And I think that at least Andrew Bailey too was a part of that decision, who's obviously still with the squad. So I think totally just due to a couple of factors like that arm angle, as I mentioned, and then his build. He's got that big build. So I think he'll be pretty durable moving forward, which is the name of the game nowadays with these starting pitchers and what ends up happening to their throwing arms.
Mm-hmm. What about you, James?
I think it's a great debate, and it's a great not that it's a problem, but it's a great situation for the Red Sox having two phenomenal young pitchers like Connelly Early and Payton Tolle. I would probably prefer Payton Tolle as well. Similarly to Aidan, I like his build a lot. He almost reminds me of like John Lester with his build, like how he's just like a bigger guy like that. But like what really does it for me is just the velocity he throws at. Like his fastball velocity is just pretty incredible. He's able to blow by guys, like which is like you watch games and like he'll get into a bad count, like a hitter's count, and then he'll just blow by 3 fastballs like it's nothing. And he's really good at missing bats. And Early's kind of had a little bit of struggle with the walks as of late, especially his last game. But I don't think that's anything to be like concerned about over the long term. I think it's kind of like younger pitchers tend to have a little bit like control issues. I think he'll tighten in on that. I don't I could see a world where they both are Cy Young potential guys in the future. But I would probably take Tolle first in if I was building a team right now. I'd probably have to take Tolle.
Yeah, I think it's a valid take. I think you guys both mentioned, obviously, Tolly's fastball is obviously something that makes him different. And then also at the same time, too, it's like, I think early the walks have been an issue. And I feel like with Tolle, it's just been, he's been a little bit more consistent strikes wise. I think Ada made a great point, though. Like, I think the ceiling that they've shown so far, like their, peak of what they've been so far in the MLB, Early's probably had a better outing. If you had to look at their best outing, I think Early probably had the best outing of the two of them. If you look at one single game where they both were elite. But at the same time, too, though, I think Tolle's consistency is something you can't underrate. And that's why I completely hear you guys picking him as, the guy you would roll with. You had to pick one or the other, which obviously we're not in a position where you have to give up one of them, right? Like the Red Sox, like you said, James, like it's not a problem, right? It's a great thing to have where you're kind of deciding, okay, we have these two guys that'll be in the rotation for good. It's just who would we rather have as our maybe number two to Garrett Crochet or number three if you have Ranger Suarez as your two. Who's the three and who's the four? Not a bad position to be in, especially when you're playing in a division. I know it has been underperforming a little bit. I know the Rays and the Yankees have played really good ball, but the Orioles and the Blue Jays have struggled this year. But when you're in a division with all those teams, it can never hurt to have that much pitching. And the Red Sox right now, they're in an AL that is on the weaker side. So at the end of the day, they could still turn things around. We are only about a third of the way through the season, so still a lot of ball left to be played. But I do want to ask you guys this. I have two last questions before we close. One of them I already mentioned to you guys. That was obviously you guys have been to I think 9 MLB ballparks. So if you guys can maybe mention your top five, that'd be one of my last questions. And then my other one, while you guys think about your answer for the ballparks, and while one of you's answering the ballparks question, you can think about the answer to this one. Who is, and I've asked this to a good amount of my guests that are Boston sports fans growing up, who is on your Mount Rushmore of Boston athletes? So you can take it any way you'd like, answer it any way you'd like to, whether it's guys you've seen play or not. Ted Williams could be on yours, for example, if you'd like. I will give you mine to start. And then obviously we can get into the ballpark question, but I'd like to give this one first just so you guys can take your time to think about your answer on that. But mine would be David Ortiz, Mookie Betts, Patrice Bergeron, Paul Pierce. I did skip Brady. I didn't have any Patriots in there because I didn't grow up a Patriots fan. So it'd be tough for me to pick a Patriot, but if I had to pick one, obviously probably be Brady. But I went with just the teams I was a fan of growing up. But Ortiz, Mookie, I went with Bergeron, and then went with Paul Pierce. But gave you my answer early just so then you guys can obviously think about it. But we'll start with that ballpark question. You guys have been to 9 MLB ballparks. What was your top five? I'll start with you, James. If you want to give a breakdown of your top five MLB ballparks you've seen.
All right, here we go. This is a great question. There's so many great ballparks and a lot more that I want to go to. But my top five, I'd probably have to go number one, obviously, I'm biased. I'm going to go Fenway Park. I just think the historic nature of it, it's literally a museum. Like, you can't beat that. And the monster is unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever sat on top of the monster, or been up there. It's a different experience. Like, there's nothing like that in baseball. So that's probably my number one. My number two, I think I would probably go Petco Park in San Diego. I really loved the atmosphere there. It's like in a really nice location. It's gorgeous there. The ballpark overall is just like very modern, very new, and it's just a phenomenal park. And I just really liked it when I was there. I'd have to put that at my number two. My number three that I've been to, I'd probably go City Field, I think. I really like City Field, a lot like San Diego. It honestly reminded me a lot of Petco. It was very similar in that aspect. Obviously, it's not in the nicer weather like San Diego is, but it's just a really nice ballpark. And I think the apple in center field is really cool when they hit the home runs. I think that's like really unique. I'm big on having like something unique about the parks. Like Fenway, they have the monster. San Diego, they have like the metal supply building in left field, and then the Apple in New York. So that's probably why I put New York at number three. My number four I've been to was probably honestly the one that comes to mind right now that I would put at four would have to be. I think I'd go with I think it's called American Family Field now, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Hmm. I think
I
you're right.
forget what I forget what it was called when we went. We
American
went a
Family
lot.
Field. You got it.
Yes, yes, that one. I loved it. It's like the slide when they hit the home runs is so cool. I think that's like really like unheard of in baseball. Like that's such a cool celebration. Like they have the mascot go down a slide when they hit a home run. And also the fact that it's like indoors. You don't have to worry about the rain and the weather. Like I know Fenway, I've been to so many games where I like had to check the weather beforehand. And like it's just convenient to roll in and not have to worry about the weather. So that was really nice. I liked Milwaukee a lot. And then my number 5, I'd probably have to go. I loved Camden Yards. I thought Camden Yards was gorgeous. I went it was unfortunately raining that day, but even when it was raining, I could really appreciate how beautiful the park was. Like Utah Street was really cool. Like they have the plaques where all the home runs are hit, and I believe that's right field. Um, it was a gorgeous stadium. Really like that one a lot. And then like an honorable mention, I would probably have to put like I'd say Cleveland, like Progressive Field. Um, Very like fan friendly. You're really close to the action there. And I also am biased because I went to an All Star game there, and that was like unbelievable experience. Saw Vlad and Pete Alonso in the home run derby, so that was pretty epic and just great memories there. So that is my stadiums. And then as far as the Mount Rushmore, I'd have to go. Like there's two no doubters in my brain. Larry Bird is a no doubter. Tom Brady's a no doubter. Three actually. Ortiz is my third. And then my fourth is really hard. I almost like I know it's kind of not maybe not the favorite pick, but I almost want to say like Edelman, like just Super Bowl MVP, 3-time champ here. He just exemplified Boston sports. Like he was blue collar, really like hardworking like guy, and just like worked his way up from nothing to become a Super Bowl MVP. I have to throw Edelman on there, and I also love his podcasts. Like I think he's great for sports overall. So that would be my final answer. Would be those guys in those stadiums.
I like the Edelman pick. It's a unique one, I feel like, too, because I think a lot of the time people think Patriots, people are just going to say probably Gronkowski or Brady, but Edelman had some big moments, and that's why I had Mookie Betts on mine. I feel like that was a unique one. I think a lot of people will probably have Bergeron, Ortiz, and Paul Pierce. Mookie might not be on everyone's, but he did win a World Series here and was one of the most electric players the Red Sox have had over the last 25 years. And over the course of my childhood, he's probably my favorite Red Sox besides David Ortiz. That's why I had Mookie in mind. Just like you had Edelman in yours because of those special moments that you obviously had growing up watching him play. But what about you, Aidan, for your ballparks? And then for that last question as well about the Mount Rushmore, which I know it's a lot to finish with, right? Ending
Yes,
the episode with this, but it's a great way to debate and obviously close things up.
for sure. It is a great way. And I'll just say, first of all, again, appreciate you having us on, Joey. This has been a blast. But so if we're going for the ballparks, I got a similar list to James. I think he hit the nail on the head on describing a lot of these parks. So I'm not gonna bore you to death by saying, oh, this park was this. So
You're good. Yeah, explain it
uh
if you want.
yeah, so honestly, number one, I'm gonna go Petco Park. I love Fenway and put it at number two, but Petco Park, as James said, great area. Love the vibes there. Very relaxed, nice baseball atmosphere, and just an overall a beautiful looking park. So I'll go there number one. Fenway number two, historically just great. Love the Green Monster. You can't beat the Green Monster. Just all the history that's been at Fenway. Um, Got that at number two. Number three, I got Yankee Stadium. I don't believe James put that in his top five. Not that I remember, but Yankee Stadium was awesome. I went there once, saw them play the Rangers. They got smoked by the Rangers, so that was pretty funny. They lost, I believe it was 14-2. So pretty interesting game, but they played the Rangers and got smoked, but the park was awesome. The concourses were great. I do remember the concession stands were great too. Like they had giant popcorn and giant whatever, like anything you could ask for. It was pretty sweet. Fourth, I'm gonna go Milwaukee. So American Family Field, I think it is what you guys confirmed. But nice indoor park, climate controlled. As James said, I love the slide with the guy sliding down. There's like that restaurant in left field that people are eating at during the game. So I thought that was a nice touch. And then fifth, I will go. I kind of debated too with this one, Angel Stadium in Anaheim. I debated that or what my pick ended up being, which was Progressive in Cleveland. I thought is a nice ballpark. I like center field where they have the Hall of Fame kind of like statues. It's like not even facing the field. It's kind of like facing out, but it's a pretty nice area. I thought that was pretty cool. And then as for my Mount Rushmore, similar, I got 3 locks like James, and Joey, I got 1 like you. I got Ortiz for sure. I got Brady for sure. I have Larry Bird, and I could go like 50 different ways with this fourth one. Like part of me wants to say Bill Russell, part of me wants to say Gronk, part of me wants to say Bobby Orr to hit all 4 sports. Um, and I think I'll represent all 4 sports, but actually I'll go Bill Russell just because of all the championships. I got to put Bill Russell in there. So Bill Russell, David Ortiz, Tom Brady, and who was my last one? I can't.
Oh, Brady. Brady.
Larry Bird. Larry Bird.
Larry
Larry
Bird.
Bird. Larry Bird. Bill Russell, Ortiz, and Brady. So I'll go there.
It's a great 4 though. And I think
Yeah.
that's a beauty. That's why I love asking this, because I think you can go in a lot of ways. Like people could answer it as the 4 best Boston athletes. You could answer it as your 4 favorite, right? Like that's why I leave it open to interpretation, which for mine, I think a lot of people would probably have Ortiz. I think everyone would probably have that consistently across the board. Probably Tom Brady as well. I think a handful will have, Paul Pierce or whatever, maybe Larry Bird, Bill Russell. I went with kind of my favorite 4, but with also 4 that were, high level players as well. Like I could have thrown in probably like Jed Lowry was my favorite Red Sox growing up, but not going to be on my Mount Rushmore. But I try to, put a mix of guys that, won and obviously had a lot of success, but were top players, in their respective sport and obviously brought, Boston a lot of, great memories. So that's the beauty of being able to do that. And one last question I want to ask, this is for James, and this is actually something I talked to Aidan about before I even knew either of you guys. I remember seeing on LinkedIn somebody from our program like reshared or liked one of James's things on LinkedIn where he gave basically a scouting report on MLB free agents. And that was something when Aiden started working at BC. I mentioned, I said, hey, is your brother James, like, was he the one doing all the scouting reports on LinkedIn? He said, yes. And I said, dude, I love, everything he was doing. I thought it was great. And he had a lot of great insight, into free agents and what contracts will be like and, how certain metrics will, foreshadow, what a player's production can be in a certain place and in a certain ballpark. But I want to ask you this, James, how much did you enjoy, building those scouting reports, for free agents this past offseason? Because it looked like you had a lot of fun doing it. So just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that a lot. That means a lot. Um, I had a great time doing it. It was really fun. Um, I actually just posted one today, but it was more so obviously because we're in the season. There's no like big time free agents. Obviously, there's some free agents, but talking about like Juan Soto's record deal and how he performed in his first year as a Met. But it's just so interesting to me, the world of contracts and like especially the Soto one, because like that was such a massive pay for a player in their prime years, and he performed excellent in his first year, and he was probably worth like almost every penny. And it'll just be interesting to see how that contract lasts over time. Like we see guys like Bogarts in San Diego. There's plenty of guys like there's rumors that the Red Sox are looking at some guys that are maybe on unfavorable contracts because we can afford to take on some of that liability. But it's just very interesting to see like contracts and how they age over time and like looking back on it like down the line.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that's the beauty of what you do in free agency. You kind of predicting what a guy's going to get money wise. And Aiden and I were mentioning it today or yesterday. Like there were some guys you got right. And I think it might have been Kyle Tucker's deal. Like if I remember right, like he got, 4 years at 240 million. Like I think if I remember right, you had a low year, total in his contract, like 3 or 4 years, but a very high AAV. And you were pretty much dead on with that, if I remember correctly. Like you knew what was going to happen there. And what inspired you to do that? Obviously, you know a lot about baseball, but obviously getting that motivation to go and write and obviously post it online, that takes a lot to do. Not as many people do that. And I feel like more should. What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, so um I'd seen some people do like certain baseball reports, and I thought they were always really interesting. And I didn't want to just like kind of do what they did because I feel like that'd be cheap and just like kind of taking their work from them. But I thought like there's not a whole lot that I've seen at least about free agency and what teams should sign for. Cause like I know sometimes they do outsource like, oh, how much do you think this player is worth? Like player evaluation. They might ask like a consulting firm, like, oh, can you value this player for us? So I just kind of thought it was interesting to talk about like what it would be like to be that consulting firm and looking at how much a player is actually worth and versus what they get on the market. Because obviously, some teams are going to overpay or underpay for guys depending on what the market demands. Like Juan Soto, a lot of people thought it was an overpay. Um, Alex Bregman, people thought was an overpay as well. Like certain players, like are just getting more money because maybe they have that pedigree or that name. So it's just interesting to me, like what it would be like to be like a not even a consulting firm because not every team does it, but like that source that kind of tries to break down what a player is actually worth on like the open market.
Mhm. Yeah, you put yourself in that room. You give yourself a seat in that room by being able to do that and kind of predict, what you would tell a team, hey, this is what I think a guy's worth years wise and, AAV wise. So it's really cool you're doing that. I think you should definitely continue to do that because truly, as I said, before I even knew you, I remember reading some of those where people were liking it on LinkedIn or something. So it popped up on my feed. I remember being like, wow, this kid knows his stuff. And then here we are today. He's on the podcast talking some ball. Same thing with Aidan, like, here talking ball. And Aidan and I every day are talking sports in the office. So, thank you guys so much for taking the time. Truly, it was a privilege and an honor to have you guys join me today to talk everything. This was high level sports talk with two college athletes. You guys played obviously at the highest level, playing college football. Never easy to do. So you guys have that high level of knowledge in the game of football, and then you know so much about the game of basketball and the game of baseball as well. So thank you guys so much for sharing all that insight and taking the time to join me today. It was definitely special having you guys on, and hopefully we'll have you guys on again soon in the future.
Awesome. Sounds great, Joey. Likewise, your knowledge is very, very impressive, and your ability to steer the conversations is excellent. So you're doing a great job here on the podcast, and always happy to listen, and really excited to have been a part of this one. Really. So thank you.
Yeah, seriously, dude. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk some sports. It was a great time. Time flew by, honestly. Like it felt like we've only been on here like 20 minutes. It literally was like just so much great stuff to talk about. Really appreciate it, bro. Like it was a great time, and would love to come back on and be a guest down the line. Hopefully, I'm sure there'll be plenty more good stuff to talk about. Hopefully, maybe a Giants Patriots Super Bowl rematch, and we could square things away a little bit better than the past. But we'll see what happens. I think it'll be a good NFL season. I'm very excited for the NFL season.
Me too. And that might be a good time for you guys to come back on, which that's a ways down the line, I feel like September, but maybe you'll come on midsummer or something. We'll talk the Red Sox trade deadline, maybe talk Celtics, what they did in the offseason, and then maybe preview the Patriots season as we get a little closer. But anytime you guys want to be on an episode, you're always more than welcome. Thank you guys for your support and for your time today. It's a pleasure to know you guys and have you guys on the podcast today. So thank you guys again.